Okay, mic check. Mic check. Okay. All right. So here we have more news. We have two articles. One was last night sometime, so I couldn't do it, and then another one today. And so this is Hank's former co-star Peter Scolari executed by military by Michael Baxter over at RealRawNews.com, October 26th, 2021. And there's a word, I think there's a word that I have to replace. You've all heard of child. Well, I'm going to replace that with child ornithology. So instead of child, I'm going to change that to child ornithology. Okay, so there's one. And let's hop right into the news. Okay, remember, there's no general's voice here. If you want to see the real deal or hear the real deal, then you're going to have to go over to Tom Youngjohn 4 and hit subscribe and get the bell and hit the bell notification, because I'm only going to put a teaser, maybe a minute long, maybe 2 minutes long, over at Tom Youngjohn 3, because YouTube is the Antichrist. I do make a good argument for that in my 3-part series on the mark of the beast, especially in part 3, but you should listen to all 3 or watch all 3 episodes of my 3-part series on the mark of the beast. That YouTube, or at least Google, is the Antichrist. All right. Hank's former co-star Peter Scolari executed by military by Michael Baxter, October 26th, 2021. Last week, Hollywood and the mainstream media lamented the death of actor Peter Scolari, who in the early 1980s starred along Tom Hanks in the transgender sitcom Bosom Buddies, in which the two dressed in drag to secure cheap housing at an all-female brownstone residence. Within hours of Scolari's death, mainstream media quickly attributed his demise to a protracted battle with cancer. But those tales are a gross obfuscation of the truth. Sources inside the U.S. Navy Judge Advocate General Corps and the Office of Military Commissions told Real Raw News that Scolari, a lifelong friend and alleged lover of Hanks, was executed on October 20th following a brief inquisition at the U.S. military's covert base in Diego Garcia. Real Raw News' tardy acquisition of this news stems from the fact that the execution took place at a facility other than Guantanamo Bay, where most of Real Raw News sources reside. In July, Real Raw News reported that Scolari and Hanks were aboard the same plane at Malpensa Airport in Milan, Italy, when troops from the 173rd Airborne Combat Brigade stormed the plane and apprehended Hanks. Hanks was taken to face a military tribunal and was ultimately the hangman's noose. But Scolari was released because the military did not deem him a threat, and because at the time it had no evidence linking him to Hanks' incontestable, repugnant crimes against innocent children. Real Raw News can now report the military amended its opinion of Scolari after JAG and the OMC reviewed disturbing videos and pictures that they obtained in the aftermath of Hank's death. Scolari wasn't even on our radar until we linked him to Hanks, and even then, we had no real reason to detain him. But our investigation into Hanks didn't stop with his death, and a few weeks after it, we found more of his computers and devices. The obscene pics and vids on those machines told us we were right to execute the bastard, and they equally incriminated Scolari. Our source said one video, our source said, depicted a collaborative criminal venture. Garbed in drag, Hanks in a red evening gown and heels, and Scolari sporting a floral ensemble. The sadistic duo stood above a young child who was strapped face down to a metal gurney. And how would you read this? Pretending to be acupuncturists, they jabbed sharp metal tines into the child's back as the kid cried out at the top of his lungs for his mother. The holes in the child's back looked like pores on a sponge. The louder the kid screamed, the deeper they pushed the steel quills into his back. They stuck the kid for 30 minutes, after which his back looked like a slice of Swiss cheese. Then Scolari smothered the child's face with a pillow and apparently snuffed the life out of him. But even that act of cruelty did not satisfy the devious duo's barbarous cravings. For a coup de grace, Hanks held a silenced pistol to the kid's head, shouting, "Life ain't like a box of chocolates, it's like a bag of shit," as he squeezed the trigger and blew out the kid's brains. A red-pink mist filled the lens's field of view. The video, our source added, was timestamped October 31st, 2015. We saw these sick vids long after Hank's execution. As soon as we did, we opened an investigation into Scolari. We figured he was just a tag along, not a real deep secret handshake state player. And so we first used an intermediary to get this info into California Attorney General Ron Bonta and Merrick Garland. Jag wasn't going to waste resources on an iffy player if the government authorities wanted him, but no, Bonta and Garland had zero interest in prosecuting Scolari, so the military leapt into action. On October 15th, 2021, U.S. Marines apprehended Scolari at his California townhouse, seizing two laptops and several cell phones during the raid. The newly found devices, our source said, held over 600,000 images of child ornithology. Jag believes many of these images are of children who were reported missing, and many are presumed dead. Our source said the next day the military charged Scolari with murder, child sex crimes, and 600,000 counts of possession of child ornithology. Unlike other deep secret handshake state assets the swamp, who had to wait weeks or months for their trials and executions, Scolari had to wait only 3 days. He was found guilty after a 2 hour long tribunal and hanged the next morning. So, love God and try to be good. Hi, Yogi.